Now, the Amended Employment Equity Act has not come into effect today, as initially planned by the Labour Department. Employers have been advised to use the current equity legislation when reporting this year's obligations. The amendments have been heavily criticised by several organisations, including Solidarity and the Democratic Alliance. Labour law expert Karabo Kgoroeadira joins me now for more to give us details as an expert herself. Karabo, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Now, hearing, the Minister of Labour, Masego himself, being quoted in the media, saying that this law is probably not ready to be effected. What does that say to us as South Africans? Because we're not the lawmakers, right?
Absolutely. I think we are ready for this law. I think just not enough research was done by the government to counteract any opposition regarding this law. In fact, this law was for the benefit of all employees, and it would open up more of the certain economical sectors. We're talking about mining, agriculture, and finance, etc., to more designated people, to our people who are defined as designated employees into these sectors. So it would benefit the people.
Yeah, and in fact, the minister himself, actually, explaining that it's not necessarily going to discriminate against certain races, etc., because the Act actually stipulates a quota in terms of how many people a company, employs. So it only starts affecting from companies that employ 50 people and above.
Yes, so that is exactly it. It affects the designated employer definition of the Act. So it just says that the Act is now applicable to employers that employ 50 people or more.
Yes.
But the gripe with this is that some employers from certain sectors, such as Solidarity and all that, they are saying that because they have to comply with this Act, it will close doors into doing business, especially with government, because it imposes the obligation on the companies to obtain a certificate of compliance from the Department of Labour. So it's more stringent and it allows more transformation. It guards against unfair discrimination, and it opens the doors to the designated people, whereas most of our designated people do not get opportunities in these certain economic sectors.
Now, of course, because the DA did say that it would go to court to, try and apply for a declaration, etc., to halt this law, basically trying to see if it can force government to rethink what it stipulated in this particular act. But, Karabo, you remind me of something when you mentioned that businesses, especially farmers, I think at some point were saying that this is going to stop companies from being able to get business, etc. There was also a response from people who are saying, are you saying that by employing more people of color in your company, it'll stop you suddenly from, getting business? So it now shows that vicious cycle that we're not out of as a country and how sensitive this labour law is.
Absolutely. I mean, what transpired was that there was a settlement entered into between Solidarity and the government, wherein affirmative action is now defined as a temporary measure that is very worrying and is very vague. And it also contravenes Section 15 of the current Equity Act, in a sense that it's open-ended on how the companies has to comply with the Employment Equity Act. So it's very worrying because our people, it may ensure that at a certain point, the issue or the notion of affirmative action may actually come to an end. It will be challenged whether it is a time to end it or not. So the settlement, yes.
Sorry about that. Sorry to come in there, Karabo. You know what I'm interested in is how this has now become very politicized and very much, Yes, I know that some level of it is definitely about race and equalizing what's happening. But the Minister, Thula Singqesi, is saying that, equality at the workplace is moving at a snail's pace, rather. And this is government's efforts to try and make sure that this changes. Whereas a political party like the DA, for instance, will say BEE, for instance, is damaging, it discriminates as well, and is also, discriminative and racism on its own, because it means that you must look to hire certain race and a certain gender before another, etc. But at the same time, when statistics come out from the Labour Department, you see that, the scale still tips towards the other side more than the other. We're still far from reaching, and we're not saying, obviously, that, we will just hire, but companies should just hire anybody based on their race and based on their gender, right? We're just saying consider other genders and other races that could do the same work.
Absolutely. We are well into our democracy. It's very worrying that this Employment Equity Act came out in 1998. We are now in 2023, and we are still looking at the statistics that are very, very worrying in terms of opening up those sectors to people of color or the designated people, women, all women, by the way, not just black women, all women.
All women, yeah.
And it's very, I beg your pardon?
No, I'm agreeing with you. It's definitely about employing all women and of all races, because we're still left behind. Or sometimes if we actually in the same position with men, we find that we earn much less.
Absolutely. So it's really, really worrying that you still see the reflection of the statistics. Well, we are well into our democracy, and we are still struggling with the same. So this amendment bill was intended to speed up the process so as to include those people, and it would have really, really assisted. Now we are stuck with a settlement agreement that is going to be made an order of court on the 31st of October, 2023. And now, and also within that agreement, it's agreed that that settlement agreement must now be made part of the regulations. That's very worrying.
Well, Karabo, thank you very much for your time. I think, you try to understand both sides with what the different political parties are saying, etc. But also, at the same time, trying to understand that the Labour Department is trying to play its role in ensuring that equality is achieved in the country. Labour law expert Karabo Kgoroeadira speaking to us there. Thank you for your time.